Hello and welcome, my dear students of class 8A, B, and C from our Alma Mater Rajeshwar Higher Secondary School, Mahoo. Today we begin with Unit 4 from our textbook. The name of the textbook, Oxford Revised New Pathways, an interactive course in English. Please open page number 88 to Fat Ladies, 8888. Unit 4, Unlikely Destinations. Okay. So here we will read about an adventurous story of an adventurous journey that came to be known as the worst journey of the world. Section 1, and the name of the story is Emperors on Ice. Excuse me, dear. We begin on page number 88. I hope you all have opened page number 88. On 27 June 1911, Dr. Edward Wilson, F. Cherry Gerald, and Lieutenant Henry Robertson Birdie Bowers left their base camp, dragging two 9-foot long sledges loaded with 757 pounds of supplies and equipment. They had to slog here means work hard. They had to slog across Antarctica's Ross Island in the pitch black, absolute dead of the polar winter. They were to trek on a terrain where they would barely see the ground at their feet, and all for the unlikely price of 3 emperor penguin eggs. So they went for the penguin eggs. पेंगुइन के अंडे. पेंगुइन क्या होती है? जो पोल्स पे रहती है, उनके अंडे लाने थे इनको. By the time the trio मतलब 3 लोग साथ में, reached the penguin rookery. What do you mean by rookery? Rookery is an area where penguins mate, nest, and raise their chicks. That is called a rookery. So by the time the trio reached the penguin rookery at Cape Crozier, Cherry writes that he would have given 5 years of his life for just one night in a warm bed. Dr. Edward Wilson, who instigated the 6-week trip in the depths of Antarctic winter, later described it as the wildest bird nesting expedition that has ever been or ever will be. Instigated means to start. So, who had started it? So, it was started by Dr. Edward Wilson. Okay. So, it was an endurance expedition. And who were they? Who had joined the expedition were Henry Robertson Bowers, Edward Wilson, F. Cherry Gerald, and they left from Cape Crozier. So, I shall continue the reading first. I am on page number 89 of your books, just below the picture. The journey at a genesis during the discovery expedition of 1901 to 1904, when the first rookery of breeding emperor penguins was discovered at Cape Crozier on Ross Island by a sledging party under Lieutenant Skelton. When discovered, the expedition ship was trapped in the ice for a second year. It gave Skelton the opportunity to be the first biologist to study these astonishing birds. He concluded correctly that the birds laid the eggs in the middle of the Antarctic winter, one of the most astonishing ornithological discoveries. What do you mean by ornithologists? So, ornithological means relating to birds. Subsequent visits to the rookery led to a wonderful series of observations that were later published. However, at the time, it was thought, although incorrectly, that the emperor penguin was one of the planet's most primitive birds, and that analysis of its embryos would reveal links between all birds and their reptile predecessors. Hence, these eggs were particularly carved. So they were carved by ornithologists. The argument suggested that if only embryos of this primitive bird could be obtained in an early enough stage of development, then surely one would be found with reptilian scales or going through some other dinosaurs phase of development. We are on page number 90 now. Thus, obtaining the embryo of the emperor penguin was regarded as the major ornithological prize, a scientific equivalent, perhaps to obtaining the pole itself. Till date, these eggs are one of the most precious ornithological specimens on the planet. Scott realized that it would be a very dangerous journey, but he knew that Wilson was very keen on making the journey of considerable difficulty for the scientific prize. For him, it was a quest for truth that was important, not worldly success. Additionally, they felt that this winter journey would give them an unexpected opportunity for further scientific work, which would answer questions that were of critical importance to the success of the forthcoming pole journey. Firstly, it gave them the opportunity to try out different sludging rations under extreme feed conditions, with varying quantities of fats, etc. And secondly, Scott had requested that his meteorologists deliver predictions for the most likely weather conditions to be encountered on the Great Ice Barrier during his attempt on the pole. For this, they needed weather data from the Great Ice Barrier in winter. Thus, the winter journey now became of utmost importance to Scott, and the success of the pole journey, as well as being of the greatest scientific interest. So we are moving further now on the third paragraph. Captain Scott started planning his second expedition aboard Terra Nova. So he is aboarding Terra Nova, the ship that was reinforced from bow to stern with 7 feet of oak to protect against the Antarctic ice pack. Captain Scott described Terra Nova as a wonderfully fine ice ship as she bumped the floes. What are floes here? Floes are large floating ice, large floating areas of ice, with mighty shocks crushing and grinding her way through some, twisting and turning to avoid others. She seemed like a living thing fighting a great fight. She here is Terra Nova. Okay, it is an ice ship which is fighting the ice. All the floating ice on the deck. Wilson, the zoologist, accompanied them as the chief of scientific staff to an expedition that was intended to be a biological triumph. For Wilson, the chance to continue studying the breeding of biology of the birds was an irresistible temptation. Hence, to Scott and Wilson, reaching the South Pole was considered to be a mere item in the results of an extensive scientific program. Now, the emperor penguin lays its eggs in June in the Antarctic midwinter, hence the decision to make the 70-mile trip from Scott's base camp on Ross Island to the penguin colony at Cape Crozier during the worst possible weather was made. So it was decided to try to situate the main expedition base at Cape Crozier itself, which gave the opportunity to study both the Adelie penguins and the emperor penguins at close quarters, as well as providing a year-round source of fresh meat and eggs. So Terra Nova set sail towards Cape Crozier in the early 1911. But the bad weather caused severe delay of the expedition, and they experienced pack ice. What do you mean pack ice? Pack ice is a large mass of ice formed from smaller pieces. So, they experienced pack ice when entering the Ross Sea. So, this was till page number 9090. Further, we will read tomorrow. This much is okay for today. You read it yourself time and again. Remember, practice makes a man perfect. So read it again and again. And then we will tomorrow read from page number 91, 92 and 93. By the time, goodbye and good luck. Take care of yourself. Thank you very much.